was a late night and I had just finished all of my deliveries for the day, and I was heading back to the warehouse with an empty van, when all of a sudden I felt a loud bang underneath my chair, and I started swerving off to the side of the road as I see steam flying up from my window. Just great. My luck, right? To have a tire blowout in the middle of the night on an old abandoned road. After I pull over to the side of the road and put my emergency lights on, I proceed to call dispatch and let them know what had just happened. They tell me not to worry and that somebody will be coming out to pick me up with a new van shortly. So I did just that. I waited and waited for what seemed to be about 30 minutes when all of a sudden I got a call on my work phone. It was dispatch. They were wanting me to verify the address again as they read one off. It was the wrong one, and the driver had just gotten there, but couldn't find me. It was midnight by now, and I was furious as I wanted to go home already, as I had an early morning shift tomorrow and I needed some sleep. They told me to sit tight and that it would be another 30 minutes before somebody arrived to my rescue. So I waited for another 10 minutes before I realized I really had to pee. I really didn't want to have to get out, but I really did try to hold it as long as I could. I say to myself, F it, and go outside anyways. I figured I would just pee right next to the van anyways. I wouldn't be too far away. I proceed to start peeing when all of a sudden I start hearing rustling in the bushes just behind me. My bladder had been built up for quite a bit now, so this wasn't just an ordinary short pee. This one took a while. I really wasn't trying to be out there for too long. I wanted this to be as fast as possible, because now the rustling noise was getting closer and closer. I started to panic more and more. The rain, lightning, and thunder seemed to have gotten stronger as I was out there. I finally finished doing my business, and I tried to get back into my van, but it suddenly was locked. And I was very baffled by this because I had definitely left it unlocked, and I know that for a fact. Something was going on. I tried the other door on the other side, or the sliding side door of the van, but nothing. They were all locked. My van was still on too. This was bad. I had left both my phones in there too, so there was no way for me to contact anyone. And to make matters worse, I started seeing a figure from a distance walk out of the thick forest that was all around me. This is when the real panic started setting in, and I frantically went all around my van trying to pry open each door, tugging as hard as I could, pushing anything. The person, or whatever it was, seemed to have gotten faster and was approaching me quickly. Part of me started to wonder if he was just coming up to help me, but then I realized I was literally in the middle of nowhere and no one should be out here, especially coming out of the woods like that all alone at midnight. While they were still distant, I started to shout at them, "What do you want?" and to go away, I don't need help, someone was coming. But it was like they couldn't even hear me as they kept getting closer and closer until they were right in front of me, and that's when I saw what they had in their hand. A crowbar, and I'm sure they weren't gonna be using that to help me out. I started to cry and scream at the top of my lungs, begging for the man to not hurt me and to leave me alone, and that I was just an Amazon driver just trying to get back home to my family. I felt so hot to my core, and my heart was racing 1,000,000 miles per hour, when all of a sudden, off in the distance, I see headlights coming. I've never felt such relief in my life. As my coworker approached with his van, I looked back down to see if the man was still coming. but he was gone. That was close. Too close. I ended up quitting after this. I never wanted to go through that again, or risk the chances of that. And to this day, I don't know what would have happened if my coworker would have never showed up when he did. Hi, my name is Mark, and I'm about to tell you why I think Amazon delivery is the worst job I've ever had. It all started one morning when I had just finished loading up my van with the endless amount of packages I had for that day on my very difficult route. I had started my route and all was going good. I was about 1/4 done with my packages when I got to a very sketchy neighborhood that I had to go deliver to. But this wasn't out of the norm for me, as I always had this route. I always try to go fast around these places because I don't want to linger there too long. It's very dangerous. So I was going as fast as I could and finishing them pretty quickly. One by one, I was sprinting door to door, driving kind of recklessly throughout the neighborhood, just wanting to get out of there. For some reason, on this day, it felt a little more urgent that I had to. And then, on the second to last house, I got stopped just as I was entering my van. I felt something cold pressed up against the back of my head, and I heard a deep, booming voice.
Stop. Don't move a muscle, or I'll blast your head off.
You didn't have to tell me twice. As I put my hands up, I knew what this was, and it was what I had always feared when I took this job. He had a partner that was already inside the van, emptying it out, every single package, into their car. I was getting robbed. Great. When all of a sudden, I felt a loud thud in the back of my head as I fell to the ground. The last thing I heard was tire wheels screeching off in the distance. Later on, I had woken up in the hospital as I had been knocked out and there was a giant goose egg on the back of my head. Yup, I had been robbed, working, and no way was I going back after that. This definitely wasn't worth the pay nor the effort. My name's Janae, and I was driving back to the Amazon warehouse after finishing my route on this night. I was very sleepy as I had not gotten a lot of sleep the prior night. So I was taking the drive kind of slow as I was drifting in and out of sleep. And yes, I know I should have just pulled over, but I just really wanted to get home after this long shift. I had a very rural route today, so my drive back to the warehouse took around 2 hours from my last stop. And being from the Midwest, this was a very long, straight, and flat drive back to the warehouse. So this made it all the more harder to stay awake. Around the first hour, I really started to drift off into a sleep when all of a sudden, I looked up and saw a person standing right in the middle of the road, right in front of my path. I quickly was able to hit the brakes and swerve just slightly out of the way, but I felt and heard a thud. I had hit the person. As soon as my van came to a screeching halt, I got out of the van to make sure the person was okay. It was very dark at this point, so I couldn't tell from a distance. I immediately scavenged and looked for the body at where it might have fallen. But I couldn't find the man or the woman. I couldn't really tell because it happened so fast. I didn't get a good look at the person. When all of a sudden, a group of 10 people wearing masks from all around me jumped out of the forest and started coming at me with weapons. I immediately screamed, but ran back to my van as fast as I could, and luckily, I was close enough that just right when I got in and locked the doors, they all came by my door and started banging on it, trying to open it and get in. I immediately floored it and drove off as fast as possible. And the strangest part of it all is I looked back pretty quickly to see that there was nobody there. What? Did I just imagine all of that? No, those were real people. I know what I saw. But I looked back so quickly, right as I was driving away, through my rear view mirror. But nope, nothing. Nobody in sight. After this, I'll always think twice about getting out of my vehicle if something like this ever happens again. It was clearly a trap, and I'm just lucky to be alive today. Who knows what would have happened if I had just been 1 second too late back to my van.